Modern life often feels like an endless performance of perfection. Society has developed a strict baseline for a successful life, one that requires a constant state of visible happiness and a completely unblemished public persona. But projecting this level of moral purity is an exhausting task. It requires a relentless effort to keep the life you broadcast entirely frictionless, filtering out every human impulse that doesn't look like a success. This rests on the assumption that if we ignore our negative emotions or bury our darker thoughts deeply enough, they will simply stop existing. But the human psyche is an organic system, and it naturally rejects this forced artificial state. This is what Carl Jung spent his career investigating. He warned that constructing a purely idealized version of yourself isn't a sign of health. It's a dangerous psychological error. Jung saw the unconscious as more than just a memory bank. It is the repository for every human trait that doesn't fit our curated ideal, the traits we deny to make ourselves acceptable to the world. This creates what Jung called the law of compensation. The more forcefully we curate a bright, perfect conscious life, the more we feed a hidden, dark counterpart that grows in direct proportion to the lie we are living. When we push our impulses down, we aren't getting rid of them. We are moving them into an environment of crushing weight and high pressure. This is the shadow. It is the warehouse for our rejected anger, our jealousy, and the raw selfishness we've been taught to find shameful. Repression doesn't destroy psychic energy, it redirects it. These denied traits sink and pool in the unconscious, remaining active. When ignored, this pool organizes into an autonomous complex, a distinct piece of the personality acting without conscious permission. By refusing to look at our darker nature, we don't protect ourselves. We simply hand over our conscious control to an entity we refuse to admit is there. Because this energy is pressurized, it eventually finds a way to leak into your conscious life. It doesn't ask for permission, it simply expresses itself through your behavior. It shows up as the subtle, unintentional comment that ruins a friend's moment of celebration, or a sudden, explosive burst of anger towards someone you love that comes from nowhere. We try to rationalize these moments. We tell ourselves we were just tired, or that the other person deserved it. But as these slips repeat, the distance between who we claim to be and how we actually act becomes impossible to ignore. These aren't accidents. They are deliberate actions orchestrated by the shadow, operating behind our backs while our conscious mind is looking the other way. A life spent denying these traits is a life where our most important decisions are being made by our own unacknowledged baseness. Eventually, the exhaustion of maintaining the lie becomes greater than the fear of the truth. When the curated image can no longer hide the friction of your actions, you have to stop running and look at what you've been avoiding. This requires an absolute, unflinching honesty. You have to be willing to look at your naked soul and admit that the impulses you've been judging in others are actually living inside you. Jung called this the sacrifice of the infantile personality. It is the moment where we finally trade our comforting delusions for psychological maturity. That sacrifice is the choice to give up the childish idea that we are purely good or morally flawless. When you finally admit your capacity for darkness, the shadow loses its invisibility. Because it no longer has a secret to hide, it no longer has a way to control you from the dark. This is the process of integration. You stop fighting to destroy the shadow and start accepting it as a valid, necessary part of your own self. By bringing these hidden parts into the light, they lose their monstrous power. They stop being an autonomous threat and become a standard part of your human complexity. The brittle facade of perfection is replaced by wholeness. You are no longer performing a character. You are living as a complete person. True stability isn't found in forced optimism. It is found in the deliberate, honest